live is about how to spot an unprofessional immigration lawyer. Um, so, in my experience, if you watch my other videos, you'll understand the full picture. But in my experience, I've seen so many immigration lawyers. Like I've seen at least five, over a, a, spirit, a period span. I've seen at least five different immigration lawyers. And just from doing some research as well, I would just like to give you five signs of unprofessional immigration lawyers, as well as the personal stress and, finances. Nobody wants to change lawyers, during during a case, during a defense, during anything. Nobody wants to change lawyers midstream. However, at times you do need to think long term and calculate whether or not having an unprofessional lawyer can cost you even more in the long run, long term. So, you know, obviously get legal advice from a professional. However, sticking with a lawyer who you definitely know is unprofessional may cost you a lot more in the long term and may actually cost you what it is you're going to court about. Okay, so the first sign of a unprofessional immigration lawyer is poor communication. We understand that immigration lawyers are busy. We understand that, they have massive caseloads. We understand that, they have deadlines going into court for this, that, and the other. However, there does need to be a level of communication that is acceptable. On one hand, you know, when the immigration lawyer reaches out to the client and asks for particular documentation or asks for, you know, things that they need in order to support their um their work, the client is expected to provide things in a timely manner and just be available to assist the immigration lawyer. Likewise, okay, likewise, communication is a two-way street. Just as the immigration lawyer expects the client to be, available and willing to do what needs to be done in regards to their case, the lawyer does need to check in and be somewhat available to the client. And so, obviously, again, we understand there are deadlines, there are court appearances, there are, competing priorities, there are other clients that have, you know, cases that are just as important. But communication needs to be at an acceptable level. So if you're never able to get hold of your immigration lawyer, they never respond to messages, they never respond to emails, you can't get an update, whether it's via their secretary or someone else in the office, I would say that's definitely a red flag. So I would say number one, the first sign of an unprofessional immigration lawyer is poor communication. Obviously, we do understand that they will be busy and probably, unavailable to personally answer your every question. However, they should have staff available that can update you. Or in this day and age of technology, it can be done online through some other measure. So that's what I would say is the first sign. The second sign of a unprofessional immigration lawyer is over promising. Now, we all want a positive lawyer. We all want a positive lawyer. We want a lawyer you know, that's hopeful, that's optimistic. However, you do not need an immigration lawyer that over promises because then what happens? They under deliver. So you want an immigration lawyer that can strike the right balance between being realistic and being hopeful, just a right balance, but definitely being realistic, however, being hopeful, Um, some people may feel like having an immigration lawyer that is always positive, 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 and over promises may be a good thing, but it actually isn't. You need a lawyer that can communicate the situation to you and the prospects to you in a balanced and fair, realistic manner in all in order for you to make an informed decision on your next step. You know, so what might that look like? So, I might have an immigration lawyer who might say to me, you know something, this doesn't look good. I can either take a gamble, or you can perhaps go back to your own country and come back um, using a legal route, like a legitimate route. That means that you're more likely to be able to, confirm your immigration history on this side. So, it might not be what you want to hear, it might not be what you are paying to hear. However, you do want a realistic lawyer. The lawyer might give you the advice of, hey, this is not the right time. Let's postpone it for another 6 months, or I need this in place. It might take you another year, which obviously is disappointing. However, you do not want a lawyer that over promises and under delivers. You want somebody realistic, okay? And sometimes the truth hurts. The truth can hurt. So if you have an immigration lawyer that's giving you information that doesn't sit well with you, however, it's the reality, then that's a good sign. So I would say the second sign of an unprofessional immigration lawyer is somebody that over promises and just is not realistic with what your options are. Right. The third sign is this one I'm a bit iffy about, but mm, so no relevant experience or proven track record, meaning when you look at their previous cases, they haven't um, worked on a case such as yours before, and they have no proven track record of being successful with your type of case. I'm in two minds about this because I personally feel like there's a first time for everything. It's a bit of a risk if they don't have the relevant experience or proven track record, but I wouldn't take that by itself as a sign of a unprofessional immigration lawyer. Because they may have transferable knowledge um, from one realm to the other. So, yeah, I would say the third sign is no relevant experience or proven track record. However, I wouldn't take that by itself because there is a first sign for everything. Although it's probably safer if your immigration lawyer has had the experience similar cases to yours and is well versed in immigration law, in how it all pans out. Hopefully, already has his network of people or her network of people that they can work with. So I wouldn't take this in in itself, but in combination with other things, I would say having no relevant experience or proven track record is can also be a red flag. Okay, so the other red flag is missed court deadlines and missed appearances in court. I mean, regardless of what your situation with, you don't want a lawyer that is annoying the judge. You don't want a lawyer that's annoying the court, okay? Regardless of their ability, you don't want them to be annoying people on your behalf. So, missed deadlines, missed court appearances, I would say is a red flag because, again, at those appearances and with those deadlines, it can impact your case. Obviously, extensions can be requested, and extensions, but it's a poor impression. It's a very, very poor impression from your lawyer to the court. So I definitely would say that missed court missed court appearances, missed deadlines can also be a red flag and can be a sign of a unprofessional immigration lawyer. What I would say as well, my caveat here is that things happen. Yeah, like things happen. So, things happen. I wouldn't say if certain things have come up, you would just cut off your lawyer. I would say that these are signs that you take in combination with one another. So if they're doing all five all the time, um, then yeah, but things happen, things will come up. It's just when it becomes a habit or a regular occurrence. Um, yeah, yeah, because remember, yeah, yeah, I would say it's definitely a red flag because I don't know. Yeah, I would definitely say it's a red flag. Um, the last one is the last sign of a unprofessional immigration lawyer is, so the first one is lack of communication. Then we have no relevant experience or proven track record. Um, we have missed deadlines and appearances. We also have over promising, over promising in regards to your case, not being realistic. That's a red flag. And the final one, no, I've got two more. One of them is when your immigration lawyer can be pushing for an early settlement. Um, Settlements are good. Settlements are predictable. Settlements can be a guarantee. However, if you've discussed with your friends and family, loved ones, whosoever, or made up in your own mind that an early settlement isn't what you want, and the fact that it's an early settlement probably means that there hasn't been much negotiation. Um, Sometimes you need to settle, definitely. Not all the time, but yes, there is a time and a place for settlement. Early settlement doesn't show much time in negotiating a better offer for yourself. Um, the lawyer just may be wanting a quick, just be wanting a fast cash out. Um, or it may be a lawyer that wants the maximum reward with the minimum effort kind of person. Um, if it's right for you, take the settlement, definitely, if it's right for you. However, don't feel railroaded by your immigration lawyer to accept an early settlement or a settlement at all. Obviously, we understand that you may miss out on this opportunity for a settlement. However, it needs to be a decision made in partnership with your lawyer. So if they're pushing for an early settlement, you need to be wary because they just may want an early payday for themselves. And however, on the other hand, sometimes settlement is the way forward, is good. Is definitely what you want to do. Um, the last sign of a unprofessional immigration lawyer is unethical conduct. Unethical conduct. So this can be a realm of things. This can be a realm of things. This can be unethical conduct in the way they conduct with yourself. Um, it could be unethical conduct in the way they conduct themselves in court. It could be an issue of integrity. It could be the lawyer asking you for false information to submit. Um, it could be illegal practices that they're willing to turn a blind eye to. Um, Falsifying, altering evidence, encouraging you to lie, misleading testimonies. All these things are signs of a unethical, not just unprofessional, but also unethical immigration lawyer. And you need to be, yeah, you need to be very wary. Some people, they're willing to hand over money and just let the lawyer do everything. They don't check on anything. They just agree to everything. But if at some point you get, um, cross-examined or something else, and you're not able to reflect what's being said on your application form, that can cause you more issues. And obviously, we all know people that have cut corners, that haven't done things on the straight and narrow, and it seems that they've succeeded. And that's another story, that's a story for another day. However, the purpose of this video is to draw to your attention the five unprofessional signs you can find in an immigration lawyer, which is not conducive to your application. So just as a recap, that would be poor communication, over promising, no relevant experience or proven track history, um, always pushing for early settlement, unethical, asking you to, unethical conduct. Okay, ask you to lie, ask you to give misleading information, just giving you statements that they just want you to sign without checking over or discussing or querying. Um, all these things make up signs of a unprofessional immigration lawyer. And what we have seen many times is some people may have done a immigration application and there have been some holes in the application, there's been some misinformation, and if the client decides to go to another lawyer, there's so many holes in their previous application, it can create issues going forward. And again, we live in a real world. I understand there's people that have done things in a very corrupt way and they've been fine. We see that all the time. However, however, what I will say is you are safer if you retain the services of a honest immigration lawyer. Obviously, you can be honest and savvy at the same time. I'm not saying that because you want an ethical lawyer, that means you have to take the gullible one. No, I'm just saying that when it comes to immigration history and immigration applications, the footprint you're leaving behind is so important. It's so important to know the trail you're leaving. Because at some point, it might be when you renew your passport, it might be when you send for your child, it can be for any week, it might be when you decide to get married. At any point, these things can come back and bite you. These things can definitely come back and bite you. So you want to make sure that your pathway is clear and not corrupt. Um, but yeah, so those are all the signs. Those are five. I think it's six, but those are five signs of a unprofessional immigration lawyer. I hope you find that helpful. It can be really tempting to just go for the lawyer that everybody talks about and maybe go for the good looking person, or it is tempting to just kind of not engage your brain in finding a childminder or something. But I definitely recommend that you um grab the bulls by its horns and hire a immigration lawyer that is effective, reliable, hardworking, honest, and reasonably priced. But again, sometimes you get what you pay for. So that's the end of this live about 5 signs of a unprofessional immigration lawyer. Remember, you can also report any unprofessional conduct to the Bar Association. I believe that's where all the lawyers, solicitors are registered. So any concerns, you can report um, lawyer to the Bar Association. But yeah, so yeah, so that's it really. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if you have any questions about immigration lawyers and how to choose them. Word of mouth can be good, but not in all cases, not in all scenarios. But yeah, so yeah, so that's the live. Again, just as a recap, I'll give you the 5 signs of an unprofessional immigration lawyer. Number one, over promising, not being realistic about your prospects or about what options you have available to you. Um, However much you may not want to hear them. Lack of communication, whether that be over the phone, by email, um, online, any texting, any type, if there's a lack of effective communication, that can be a red flag, because you want to stay in constant communication. Obviously, we understand that immigration lawyers are busy, they have lots of things to do, they've got a massive caseload, so clearly they're not going to be able to be on the phone with you all the time. However, there are ways that you can delegate to other people to update people on their case. Pushing for an early settlement. Be careful that this isn't a ploy for an early payday. Um, any decisions taken in regards to the finances should be made in partnership. Unethical conduct, whether that be inappropriate, um, advances on you, or just, you know, the way they speak to you, you know, asking you to lie or withhold um, the truth. Um, don't overshare it already. Missed deadlines and court appearances. Your lawyer should not be missing deadlines, and your lawyer should not be missing court appearances. That's very important. Very shabby behavior. No relevant experience or proven track record. That's another red flag. One more thing that I forgot to add actually is hidden fees, right? Confusing billing and hidden fees. That's something I forgot to mention. If there are hidden fees, if it's like, oh well, you owe me for this, and oh you owe me, and that wasn't in the initial invoice or bill, that's another red flag because obviously a good lawyer is going to cost you money. However, there shouldn't be surprise hidden fees just coming out of the woodwork. It should actually be very transparent, very straightforward, very clear what money you owe that lawyer for what work. Okay, so that's another one. Hidden fees and confusing billing. Try and get somebody that can support you, that can oversee any payments or any billing information. So you have a mediator, somebody to keep an eye on all that good stuff. Anyway, so that's the end of my live. I hope that's been helpful. I hope you have a great week and thank you for joining my live. Please like the live and take care of yourselves. Thank you. Bye.